We're looking at my wife's 2014 Ford Fusion. It's the Fusion S. She came home from work one day saying she heard a noise. So I took a ride with her, and it sounded like tire noise. So I was set to rotate the tires front to back to see if the noise moved when I did that as part of my diagnosis. And before I did that, I came in to the front and I moved the tires. And I'm hearing the noise now that I've got it jacked up. I've got it jacked up by the body now so that I have room to work. But when I initially did this, I had it jacked up under the control arm so that there was less droop on the transaxle. But what I noticed is I heard this clicking sound as I turned the wheel forward. Going in reverse, I heard nothing. Like I said, I have axle droop now, so I'm probably hearing the compression of the sleeve on the CV joint as it rotates around. But this noise didn't sound good, and it sounds like it's coming from inside the transmission here. So I talked to John at Transmissions by Bruce in Parma, Ohio. I was going to have him look at the transmission, and when I described what was happening, he said, you should first take it to a mechanic and check out the CV joint because it may be the bushing that's inside here. And I don't know why they don't sell the seal and the bushing with the drive shaft, but they don't. I went all over trying to find the bushing, and what I ordered, and hopefully it's the right thing, but I ordered a case bushing for the 2014 Ford Fusion. I believe the transmission is 6F35, according to everything I've seen. But there's a sticker right here, and you probably can't read it, but it actually says case on it, right up here. I'm going to zoom in on that. Oh, can't zoom in. I can't get the camera moved in place where I could zoom in. And keep that in the frame. So it says case right there. So I'm assuming that I ordered the right parts. I don't know. So I'm going to be taking this apart, and I'm not going to video everything. I wasn't even going to make one, and then I decided the diagnosis is the most important thing, because if you don't have that right, you're nowhere. So I decided to record the diagnosis. I'm not going to video the whole thing because, you know, taking off the brake caliper and ABS sensor and stuff like that is pretty routine, and you can find that on 100 different videos. But I didn't see anything on this with diagnosis of that bushing. So as I said, I'm going to be taking that apart, and I'm going to video only the important parts, or what I think is important. And as usual, I always say I show the good, the bad, and the ugly. So if it turns out it isn't that bushing, my bad. but I'll show that as well. We'll see. That's on order from Rock Auto, and it's going to be here in 2 days. So I'm not under pressure to get this done tomorrow for my wife to take it to work, because I know that she's not going to be able to take it because the parts won't be here. Quick tip here, I have taken off the tire, the brake caliper. I took it off with the tire mount, 2 bolts. Took off the rotor, and I took the screw out of the ABS sensor. Now, I was having trouble pulling the ABS sensor out, but I found that I could go right in here with a screwdriver, gently pry it, and it came out very easily. Next thing I'm going to do is going to take that nut off, and when I take it off, I am going to leave the nut on while I pound the axle out and free it from the hub. My Milwaukee 1400 foot-pound impact wrench made short work of that. I took it all the way off, finger tight now, and now what I'm going to do is break it loose from the hub. It's free. I can take this off now. The new axle came with a nut, so these are throwaway. Now, there were 2 ways I've seen of getting at this. One was to disconnect the lower control arm, which meant that you had a ball joint down here, you had a tie rod end here. The guy that did it also disconnected this stabilizer link. And then the other way I saw is to simply go after these 2 bolts here, which are 21 millimeter, if I remember what the guy said. So I'm going to take those off and punch those bolts out, and this will all drop down. So he was correct in that the bolt is 21 millimeter, but the nut is 24. Now, I'm going to try this the way he did it, because he didn't have to hold the nut or the bolt. He just took off the nut. We'll see what we can do here. I love this impact wrench. And then the ends of these are not threaded, so you can beat on them. I may have to get an air hammer. And beat on them, because this is an awkward angle for a hammer. I'm going to set up my air hammer. Okay, I popped the first bolt out of there, and I was trying to get this ABS cable out of the way, and I don't know whether I broke it trying to pull it out or not, but it just slips out now. And my air hammer, which is the good one from Harbor Freight, made short work of the other one. Hopefully I'm not in the way. Trying to do this slowly because the first one shot out the other side. like that. So you need a good air chisel to do that, because I've tried it with not a good one and it didn't work out too well. The other thing is you got to have enough air pressure, so it's a combination of the two. There's a sweet spot. So now that that's disconnected, we can just separate this and pull this down and hopefully get the axle to come out. There it is. Come on. Okay, the axle is free. I'm going to set up the camera over here, aimed at the place where it goes into the transmission, and you simply pry that out. I am going to use a big pry bar that my wife got me for Christmas to fix her car. And remember, it's aluminum you're prying against, so you can't be too aggressive. And I think to make this easier, since I have the lift, I'm going to raise it up so that I can stand under the car and do it. Might as well not make it hard on myself. I'm going to zoom into the piece I'm trying to pry out, and the light's pretty bright, but the darker black piece there behind the CV joint, I don't know what it's called, but the rubber thing that goes around it to keep the dirt moisture out. So hopefully this will not be difficult. There it is. The other thing is, well, it was a good thing that I decided to raise the lift, because I neglected to put a bucket under the thing to catch any transmission fluid that might come out when I remove that axle. So I lost my light because I knocked it down again, but basically the axle is loose, and all I've got to do is yank it all the way out. I should say I lost one of my lights. I may have to turn the wheel to get myself more room. Let me shut off the camera and turn the wheel. Well, that's about as good an angle as I can get. Wait a minute, let me lower the lift. Gotta confess, I forgot to turn the camera on before I started pulling on this, so it's out further already. There you have it. That's out, and there is some scoring on that. I gotta get it in the frame. There's some scoring on this. So, is that scoring or dirt? This doesn't look terribly bad. But it is not perfect, that's for sure. And the car has 100,000 miles on it. So next thing I'm going to do is try and pop that seal out. I already have the seal in my possession. Actually, before I pop it out, I'm going to make sure it's the right one. So this looks like it's the right seal. So I can pop that out since I know I have the replacement. And I don't know if I can do it from this angle, but I'm going to try. If I can get this under the lip. If I can't do it this way, what I will do is catch a screwdriver underneath the edge of the lip on the outside here and just work it out. But I'm pretty sure I won't be able to show that to you because I'll have to raise the lift and then I won't be able to get the camera angle. I have a smaller pry bar that I'm going to try and use. Nope, not going to work. At least not from that angle. Well, I think I'm going to have to go underneath. Try this with maybe some different tools. That means I'm going to raise the car up and I'm going to lose the camera angle, but basically one of two things is going to happen. I'm going to be able to catch something under one side and then pry it out, or I'll catch a screwdriver here and dent this in till it's loose. I'll let you know what I did. And I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see this, but what I did was I got a pretty thin, narrow bladed screwdriver under the edge of that, and then once I got it up a little bit, I was able to advance to a thicker bladed screwdriver. And now all I'm doing is working my way around the edge. I guess it's already out. Well, it's going to come easy. Gotta make sure my catch bucket's in the right place if it leaks fluid. Oh, and of course I missed the bucket. But there you have it. The seal is out. not much is leaking out. So I didn't tear it up too bad, but, you know, obviously I'm not going to use it again. But I used my Craftsman screwdriver, long and narrow one, which I can't seem to locate right now. Got under the edge, lifted it a little bit. Once I got it up a little bit, I was able to use this. And I just worked my way around and pulled it out. So the only thing that's left in there is the bearing, and I'm going to leave that in there. The reason is, if the ones that they send me are not the right one, I have not gone past the point of no return with that. So that's going to be it for today. So this is the bolt with the 21 millimeter head that had a 24 millimeter nut on it that held onto the strut. And the reason you didn't have to hold it with a wrench to turn it is this has a knurled edge to it that once it fits into that strut, it prevents it from turning. Now to get it back in, all I'll do is put it in as far as it'll go, put the nut on and tighten it, and it'll pull it in. I've got a blind bearing bushing puller. I don't know if you can see on here, but there's 3 slits in here so that you insert this into the bushing and then tighten this up, and it'll expand so that it grabs it from the inside. Then you attach either a puller or a slide hammer to the end to pull it out. Okay, I've got the puller inserted into the bearing, and now it's a matter of screwing this onto the end of the puller and then tightening it down so that it pulls the bearing out. Bushing. So I've tried to remove that thing with the slide hammer. I've tried to remove it with the little puller device. That kept turning cockeyed and slipping off before it would pull the bearing. So I had ordered a bearing installer and puller set as a loaner tool from AutoZone, and I called them and it was in, so I went and picked it up. I'm going to try that. So when I went to pick it up, I found that it was a brand new set, so I'll be the first person using it. So other than a manufacturing defect, if I can't get it off, it's user error. So I guess this is my bad, because when I went to order it yesterday, I looked at their loaner tools and I saw front wheel drive vehicles, and that's what I was working on. But this is for wheel bearings. So I don't think this is going to help me too much unless I can use maybe a sleeve to use with my puller that I have to keep it from walking crooked. I may be able to use it that way. Okay, I think what I have here is a case of user error in I was trying to use that removal tool from the kit that I had wrong, and I discovered that during the process of trying to rig this so that I had a flat case up against the transmission case, and then the wheel bearing tool in here and another one here, and I put this flat piece here. And what I realized that was I was turning this shaft, and I believe I was supposed to be turning this nut here because that will pull out on the bearing extractor. So I don't know if I can get in here with the camera without getting in the way of it. It's going to be a slow process, I think, because I'm not able to turn it very much each time I grab it. And this isn't a very good wrench. So I am going to shut the camera off, but I think after doing this for a while, I'm going to find out that by tightening that, that's drawing everything out. And I wasn't doing that before. I was tightening this shaft, and I was pushing it in. Well, I always say that I show you the good, the bad, and the ugly. I don't know if I'd exactly call this ugly, but I'd call it bad because after using every pulling device available to me, and I tried renting them, borrowing them, whatever, I cannot get that bearing out of the case. So what I have done is I have put the old axle back in, the old seal, so basically nothing has changed, but it's back together, and now I guess it's my wife's car. She'll have to decide whether she wants to take it to a mechanic, and maybe they have some tool that's not available to me. Possibly the Ford dealer, they might have a tool that I can't get, at least not cheaply. And she'll have to decide whether she wants to do that or whether she wants to get a new car. I don't like failure. This is actually the first time in my life that I have actually given up on a repair to a car. So 77 years old, I guess it's not that bad.